Hey everyone, so today we're going to secure our AWS API Gateway using AWS Cognito using OAuth2 scopes. So first up, we're going to set up a new Cognito user pool. We're then going to create a custom domain with our new user pool and configure an OAuth client and resource server that we're going to use to protect and access our protected APIs in the gateway. We're then going to create some custom scopes on our resource server and use those to check that the calling API on our mock endpoints actually has those OAuth scopes. So let's get into it. If you go to the AWS Management Console and go to Cognito, let's create a new Cognito user pool. We'll give it a name, we'll call it test user pool, or let's call it OAuth2 user pool. And then review defaults, and the defaults are good. So first up, let's create a custom domain name. Let's just call it, our custom name. Check that it exists, and looks like it is. It's all good. So now next up, let's create our OAuth client. So let's give it a name. We'll call it client name. This is where you'll configure refresh token, access token, expiration dates, and ID tokens. We'll leave them default for the time being. And we'll leave all this default as well. So let's go create app client. So this is our client ID and client secret that we'll use later. But right now, let's go and create our resource server. So we'll call it RS for short. So RS short for resource server, and this is where we'll create our custom scopes. So Cognito is going to use the resource ID and then dot or dash for the scope name when you actually access or try and request those scopes in the call later. So we'll just put read and write scopes on this, and we'll give it a short description, read and write. Pretty simple. Let's go save. And now let's go back to our app. Let's go to app client settings and select our Cognito user pool that we just created. We won't have callback URLs because we're going to use the client credential flow for this. And we can see we've got our allowed custom scopes down here. So let's select both of these and let's save that. And that should be everything we need to actually test this flow out, to test out our OAuth2 flow with client credentials. So if we copy this, our custom domain URL, jump over to Postman and put this in here. Might be easier if we paste it in there. Oh no. If we just remove these spaces, since that won't work. And then the actual access token URL is /OAuth2/token. And I know that because the documentation has that documented here. So OAuth2/token, that's what we got here. Our client ID and a client secret, we can get that from our app client settings. From app clients. So app client ID, we'll put in there. And app client secret, we'll put in here. That's fine. And we won't request any scopes, and by default, we'll get all the scopes that we, all of our custom scopes as well, by default. So that should be everything we need to then test this out. Let's see what happens. There we go, complete. So now we've got an access token back, and if we copy this and then go to our favorite website, jot.io, and paste in access token, we should see, hopefully, our custom scopes in this access token. There we go. So we've got rs/write and rs/read. So say we only wanted to request the rs read custom scope, we can then pop that in there. So clear the cookies, pop rs/read, and then get a new access token, and then check this new one that we got, and we should hopefully only get the rs read scope in there. Perfect. So we've got our user pool set up, we've got our OAuth client working, that's all good. Next up, let's jump over to the gateway, and let's create an API gateway and create a mock endpoint on that gateway. and then secure an endpoint with our custom OAuth scopes. So let's just create a new REST API. And the API name can be called my API. Okay. And let's create a resource. We'll call it some resource. Perfect. And now let's create a get method, and let's create a post as well. So that's our read and write methods on the gateway there. And then let's configure these to just be mock endpoints. So that one's there. And our get method, let's just reload that. And our mock endpoint, save that. Give it a second to load there, and double check that the post one set up. Yep, great. So now let's deploy this. Let's deploy our API and just give a name of v1. And let's test that we can actually call these endpoints. So let's copy this. And in Postman, we'll just paste this in here, and this will be some resource slash, it'll be slash some resource slash, that's it. So v1 slash some resource is our endpoint. So if we just would get on that, we should get back at 200. Go back to our API and let's return just some sample JSON data. So I guess the integration response. Let's go mapping templates, application JSON, and then let's just put in message hello world. Let's say hello. Save that. And save this as well. And then let's just deploy our API. And then jump back to Postman, and hopefully, if we wait a second for it to propagate, we should get back. There we go, message hello. Great, so now let's configure our custom authorizer using our Cognito pool. So let's say Cognito Auth, and then we want to select the OAuth2 user pool, and the token source will be the header that the access token is coming from. So this will be authorization, and you want to spell it correctly. Authorization, create, and now let's go back to our resources, and let's now configure our get method to now use this custom authorizer. So and use a new Cognito Auth user pool. This might not show up the first time, so you might have to refresh the page and then it'll show up. And then let's configure our custom scopes, which was rs/read. If we double check, yep, rs/read is our custom scope. And let's now save that and now deploy our API. Great. So now let's go back to authorization. Let's get a new access token. Let's actually double check. So we're not requesting any scopes right now, but let's request rs/read and get new access token, proceed, and then press use token, which would then automatically add this authorization header for us. And then let's try calling our API. There we go. Hello. Now, if we disable sending this, disable sending the authorization header, if we can somehow. There we go. No. We might have to go no auth. There we go. And then send it again. We get unauthorized. So our endpoint now is using the OAuth2 authorization header to actually authenticate and authorize our access to this API that we've got exposed in the gateway now. So that's great. So now we can also enable it for the post method as well. So we do a similar method, so we enable that. And then our OAuth scope can be rs/rat. And then we save that and then deploy this API. And then make sure everything got saved properly. Looks like it. Great. So now let's do a post request on this endpoint with the same token, so we get unauthorized. And that is because we requested the rs read scope, but we need the rs rat scope to actually put, to post to this endpoint. So get should still work perfectly fine, which it does, but the post doesn't. So let's just update our scope to get the rs rat scope, and then get new access token, and then users token, and then let's go post that endpoint, and then it works. We don't get back anything because we didn't configure it, but we get back at 200, so we will definitely successful. If we disable the auth, it should be 401, which it is. Great. So let's do one more thing. If we don't specify any scopes, by default we get all the custom scopes assigned to access token. So if we just do a quick test here and copy this and go use token, before we actually use it, let's go to Dread.io and see. So we've got scopes and we've got both custom scopes added by default. So it's important to keep that in mind, that both scopes get added to your access token by default. And then we can now use this token to essentially call our post endpoint or our get endpoint with the same access token because it has that custom scope already added in there. So that's pretty much it, guys. We've secured our AWS API Gateway using AWS Cognito and OAuth2 scopes. I've covered quite a bit. In the next video, we're going to use probably a few other OAuth flows, probably the authorization code flow, and we're going to also secure some other API endpoints. So that'll do it for this video, and I'll see you on the next one.